I have a lot of debt that I'm trying to pay back. So that kind of dips into the monthly amount of money that I can spend and makes it a bit harder to focus on other goals.
Oh, let's chat about the student loans.
Yeah.
Yeah, the student loan of almost $32,000.
Don't say the interest rate.
What the heck happened here, Anna? Welcome to Finance Action. My name is Romain, and together we'll dive into someone's personal finances, learning from their stories, and take action towards their financial future. Follow me along as we discover the story of Anna. Anna, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Awesome. So let's look at your profile. As always, we like to start this show by understanding your finance perception. And looking at our rating on your finance perception from chilling to mayday, you've ranked yourself as surviving. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how do you perceive your finance today?
I make a pretty good income, so I feel okay about that, but I have a lot of debt that I'm trying to pay back. So that kind of dips into the monthly amount of money that I can spend and makes it a bit harder to focus on other goals.
Okay. So you mentioned that you've accumulated a little bit of debt. Can you tell me how did you come to this amount of debt pretty much? What were the circumstances?
So I graduated from college right as the pandemic was breaking out. And at the time I worked at a cafe, but I wasn't able to work for a few months because the cafes weren't open. So I started kind of using my credit cards for everyday expenses, maybe a rent payment here and there. And it slowly caught up on me. I've been paying it back, but it's kind of stayed steady over time.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay. So I want to understand, because I'm sure you're not the only one that found yourself in this situation. Graduated right on COVID. I mean, isn't that the case? What happened? What was going through your mind at the time?
I was excited to start doing new things and putting my skills to the test. And then there was a hiring freeze for probably a year. So going into my professional career didn't really work out. I ended up doing freelance work instead and modeling and writing.
Okay, well, nice transition. I guess that will bring us into our next section, which looks at income. So let's start with your current position, and it seems that the sky has become bluer for you. Right now, you're making a greater income, I imagine. Can you walk me through a little bit about what you do and how much do you make?
Yeah, now that I'm doing freelance work, writing and modeling and doing some acting, I've been able to make an average of like $86,000 a year. Hopefully, I'll be able to keep growing that. Is the goal with entrepreneurship.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, I mean, if we look into 86,000, it's always, especially if you do entrepreneurship, to keep about 30% of your income. So that brings you to about $5,000 net per month. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Okay. And you just mentioned as well that you would then be able to increase this over time. I mean, what is your line of work? You work as a writer, but do you write books? Do you write scripts for movies? How does blogs?
I do blog writing and modeling. It's just like gig work as things come up, or in Seattle, or I travel.
Oh, I see. And with regards to writing blogs, is there like a field that you're passionate in? Is it fashion or?
Right now it's whatever I can get that pays the bills. But what I'm passionate about writing about is like relationships and poetry. So my long-term goal would be to like write books.
Okay, yeah, no, that's cool. Awesome. All right. I mean, look, for someone that does gigs works on their own and bringing $86,000 a year, this is not bad at all, Anna. Actually, if we look into your age bracket from 25 to 34, the median income, so the median is 50% below, makes that amount, 50% make above, is $51,000. So you are at 86, largely above. Now, again, we both live in Seattle, and we know that the city is pretty expensive. So I guess that's, it's always to be taken into account. So kudos on that front. Okay, we'll mark that you make about $5,000 net. Let's move on to looking at your assets. And in some of our discussions, we try to understand your net worth. In this case, as we looked into your statement, you currently have about $1,000 on your checking account, right? Okay. Yes. I mean, we definitely want to make sure you have a little bit more protection than that. But right now, would you say that you have any other assets? You name. Okay.
Not really.
So you're living on a fine line every month, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's about. And are you okay with kind of managing that pressure? That like pretty much living paycheck to paycheck. How do you manage all of that?
It's stressful. That's why my goal is to earn more, and that's why I've kind of taken the steps that I have to take my earnings into my own hands, rather than being set at like an income that someone else sets that's like stagnant. So yeah, it's pretty daunting, but it makes me want to work towards my goals.
Okay, so I want to tap a little bit into this. When you say you've worked towards increasing your income, and it's going to be here again as well for our listeners, what are some of the steps that you are taking to make sure that maybe you put yourself better out there, or just what are you doing that makes you think that you're going to be able to increase your income?
Yeah, with what I do, it's about advertising and making connections so that you can get more jobs and better paying jobs. So really working on the networking, the marketing.
Okay, that's good. All right, let's move on then into some of your expenses. Quick aparté here. If you're not a subscriber, we are a fairly new YouTube channel and we'll love to have you part of the crew. Our goal here is to make sure that we bring the knowledge and the experience of many for you to guys apply in your own situations and hopefully put yourself into a better spot. So as we look into some of your expenses here, let's start first with rent. How much rent do you pay?
$1,800.
Okay, so $1,800 in Seattle, it's probably a 1-bedroom apartment, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So looking at how does that compare against where you should be at a $5,000 net, you are at 36% of your income. We want you to be at 28. So, maybe, I know the city is quite expensive, but maybe something to consider. For now, we just have to put it as a need. It's not like you can change your accommodation tomorrow, but it's true that it's a little bit steep for how much you're earning right now. Okay, looking into transportation. Do you own a car?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm paying it off.
Okay, so you're paying it off. Okay, well, how much money do you own on this car today?
About $9,000.
Okay, $9,000. And what is the interest rate?
3%.
Okay, hey, that's pretty good. You probably got it at a good time. How long ago did you buy it?
I bought it a month before the COVID lockdown.
Oh.
And so it was right before like the chip shortage and cars got so much more expensive. So actually it's been 3 years and it hasn't lost value from what I bought it for.
Very nice. What car is it?
It's a 2015 Prius.
Oh.
So good. It's good
Yeah.
gas mileage. Maybe trusty.
Yeah. Those are, just so you know, those are excellent. Now, I'm not sponsored. I'm a car guy myself, okay? And I own at some point a Prius too. You will be surprised. I just really like those cars. Generally, Toyota tend to be very resilient. And especially if you think about miles per gallon, you have about, 50, 55? It's excellent. And those cars can last, 200 plus thousand miles. So on that front, while you're still carrying debt at 3%, it's not too bad of a spot to be in, okay? Yeah. And you bought it new?
Used.
Used? Okay. How many miles you have?
70,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this to me is a no-brainer. I think it was maybe the timing was a little bit off just before making an income. But right now, as you stand, I think, this is not a bad place to be. Okay. So that puts you at 9% of your income. We want you to be below 15. So good job to you on that front. Okay. I don't think we need to change much. Well done. Okay. All right, moving on into probably one of the toughest part for you. And let's chat about the student loans. Yeah. You graduated during COVID with quite a bit on your slate here. Let's start first looking at the first one, $29,681 at an interest rate of 0%. So those are your federal loans. 0% right now, it's pretty much free money. You're not making any payment on those, I imagine, right? Okay.
No.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know for how long are we going to keep that 0%, but for now, just don't touch it, okay? Except if you have, you've won a lotto or anything. This money can rather be better invested, but for now, don't touch it, and we'll see how long that trends. Did you qualify for the $10,000?
20,000 if it goes through. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I have my personal opinion that I won't voice on whether it's going to go through or not, but I will be fairly conservative, though. It's always better to assume the worst case and then be surprised, okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to move into the black duck here. The student loan of almost $32,000
Don't say the interest rate.
with an interest rate of 14%. What the heck happened here, Anna? When you got that loan over your time where you were studying? Because, generally, I have a student loan myself. And right now, as I looked just earlier today at the interest rates for private loans, they are between 5 and 7.5. Even in a very high interest period. So what happened here? Were you just no credit score and you needed the money? Kind of what happened here?
Yeah, I guess. I didn't know anything about student loans when I went into college, and no one talked me through it. And so when I went into college and I went to an out-of-state school that had a certain price, and I thought I was getting a good deal, but everything that I wasn't getting covered by the grants and scholarships that I did have, including my housing, even though I was working, I still had to put it on student loans. I just wasn't making enough to cover, rent and school and everything. So yeah, all my school costs went into student loans. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it because I had no idea what that interest rate meant or how long I'd be paying it, how high the payments would be and how negligible they are and what you actually owe still. I still wouldn't know what a good student loan rate is apart from the federal rates that are just handed out. So I just did what I had to do, I guess. And I thought that was normal because my mom did that too. And my mom is still paying off her student loans. So I was just okay, yeah, you go to college and you get student loans.
It's a tough story. Just because I'm sure you're not the only person in that case. You're 18. You're just going into college. Probably, in your case, you were following passion a bit with political science. And that's why it is important to try and be financial literate. Now, at 18, was I financial literate? No. Let's be frank. It's not probably a field of your interest. You better be with your friends and enjoying your time. But it is true that if we have young listeners today, that it is important to really consider the field that you want to be in. Look at the exit opportunities. Think of college as an investment. I understand passion, but also think about your future self. Here, 14% is crazy. It's almost a credit card. Your minimum payment are, you rated here about $560 a month.
Yeah.
Let's see how we're going to tackle this when we moved on into our debt repayment strategy. You have another student loan, again, of about $8,000. Mm-hmm. This one, better interest, 5%.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another federal one.
It's not the best rates that we've seen for student loans right now. I think refinancing something like this will not be worth it for you at this time. But here, a minimum payment of about $100. So, okay, let's move on from this situation. So yeah, quite a bit of student loan on that front here. But that's not the whole story. As we move into probably one of our toughest segments on our show, the credit card debt. So credit card debt, you've spoke about it during our finance perception, and you've got quite a bit, Anna, to be honest. Let's start first with probably the one that has the biggest amount, almost $6,000 at 26.5% interest. You're paying $500 on minimum payment on those. So the question that I have for you here is, today, when you do your purchases, do you do them on your credit cards or do you do them on your checking account?
Checking account.
So you're not touching those credit cards pretty much?
No.
Yeah. So you've pretty much accumulated those sum during your time off, and right now you're literally little by little chipping at it, but you're not increasing your amount of debt.
No, I was able to pay off one credit card that was $1,800 last month.
Nice.
So I've been chipping at it.
Yeah,
but it's still pretty high. So I want to tackle the ones that are still there.
Yeah, as I look into your other credit card, you have one that is $3,200 at 13% interest. Not a bad interest for a credit card. And anything other than inflation, or at least over than what you could get as a return on an investment on, let's say, the S&P 500, which are the top 500 companies in the United States. You can make an investment into a brokerage account, no sponsor here, but like Robinhood or any other, and they historically give you about 10% back, okay? Here, with the credit card at 13%, it's it's unbeatable. It's difficult to beat those investments. Again, yes, you can have returns that are greater than credit card payment, but they are very risky, so be mindful. I want to move on to the next credit card, $1,300. 30% interest. Oof.
Yeah.
So this one is, while the amount is low, the interest is a killer. I mean, there is not much you can do here. As I look into some of your expenses, for the most part, Anna, you seem fairly frugal with your money. There are a couple expenses here that I see on shopping, which seems to be a little bit of your
Achilles heel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we definitely going to have to improve a little bit on that front. But for the most part, as I review expenses, I mean, you're just someone that ended up in a bad spot at a bad time in an environment that was not beneficial to you, and you've just taken on that debt. At the time, though, you mentioned that you were still working during those 3 years, but like $20,000, you couldn't do more at the time? You felt, I mean, I guess you were kind of closed into your room. There was not much you could do.
Yeah, and I was I was working in like very low wage jobs, and kind of like changing jobs here and there because a lot of people started hiring, but then they would like go back and like do layoffs. Yeah. There's just a lot of back and forth there.
Yeah, I mean, as I link back a little bit here into, your expenses, I'm not seeing anything that's really out of the ordinary. You do grocery, you pay your insurance. Not much going on. I think right now it's going to be all about the strategy on how to get you out of this situation and set you up best for your entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah.
So without further ado, now that I have quite a bit of information on you, it is time for the favorite segment of the show, the money case. And we are back for the money case, the moment that many of you have been waiting for, and I have it here, ladies and gentlemen. In this briefcase, Anna represents the amount of money that you spend per month on interest. Okay?
Okay.
Solely on interest.
Okay.
So bear with me, because there's quite a bit. So you don't only spend $100, not $200, not $400, not $600, Anna. But you spend a total of $633 per month on interest. Now, what you're seeing here is, and I know it can be a little bit shocking, but what you're seeing here is money that is being thrown away without any return, without any principle. So Anna, let me give you the amount of money here, and I want you to realize this. You have to realize this is more than 10% of your income. This is quite a bit, and I want you to visualize this by throwing it in the garbage here. And it's tough, but this will be done soon. All right, thank you. In this show, we find solutions for you. The way we want to organize our recommendations here, no financial advice, this is what I would do if I was in your position, is we follow the same structure as the one that we've discussed previously. We identify your needs. In your case, Anna, your needs sum up to $4,100 per month, which is about 82% of your income. We want to see this below 50%, okay? But not all is wrong, because you have a good income that allows you to contribute to a certain amount in goal that we'll be discussing right now. The second category that we like to see is your wants. And for the most part, on your wants, as we reviewed your finances, you are fairly frugal. You spend a little bit on shopping, about maybe $200, $250 a month. So your want category is quite small, which balance against the needs. What is remaining is what we call gold is what I call gold. It's the other category. It's the money that you can either use to invest or use to pay debt. In your case, we want you to pay debt because, again, you have such high interest rates. You have about $700 a month that you can invest back into your debt. Okay? Now, the way I would focus on this is we have different routes. The first route is what we call a debt avalanche. And debt avalanche means that you're paying the debt that has the highest interest rate. Okay? In your case, this would be the credit card with 30% interest. And this, you should be able, based on the amount that we've discussed together, in your mind, I want you to set that every month, no matter what, you have to save $700 on top of your minimum payments. Because in your needs, I already accounted for your minimum payments, okay? So this debt, we are estimating that within the next 2 months, hopefully you can get that card out of the way, okay? As we progress, I want you to continue paying your credit card. It's pretty much all your credit cards here. The one that has 25%, this will be after 7 months. And then after that, it's going to take a little bit of time to go through the rest of the larger payments because of your student loans, not accounting for your federal loan, using this methodology right now, not doing debt conciliation. It will take you 30 months. 30 months without the federal loan.
Yeah.
Okay? 30 months is the time assuming that you can maintain $700. Now, my hope for you, Anna, is that you can increase your income. Yeah. And every cent of what you're making extra, I want to go to this debt. Because you're working of a very fine line. Being freelance and with $1,000 on your checking account, if something arises, I mean, you have a little bit of value into your car, but it's too tough. And you shouldn't be at this age having to feel this pressure. So what I need you to do is, realistically, if I was in your shoes, number one, you have a good credit score, don't you?
Yeah, it's a little over 700.
Okay, perfect. So this should allow you the opportunity to do debt consolidation, okay? So either you go and you start, benchmarking against different banks to see how potentially we could consolidate this credit card into what we call the debt consolidation that has a much lower interest rate. Okay. And you tab into that. As much as you can, you tab into that. At the same time, I would also look into student loan providers, private banks, and see if you can get into, again, consolidation of those two loans here. Actually, not two. The other one has 5%. So just the one that has $32,000. Get that 14% out of the way, okay? And get into something that at least is below inflation. Hopefully, you can get something between 5 and 7%, okay? Right now, you are in an unfortunate period where interest rates are really high. So your interest rates are not going to be the most advantageous. But it is important that you consider on how you can best leverage your credit score because you have, again, an excellent credit score. So go ahead and look into the different options that you have to consolidate that debt, decrease your interest rate, and push the payments as much as you can. I want you, before you pay that 5% interest rate or that 0% student loan here, that you create an emergency fund. Mm-hmm. Okay, an emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of your needs. Okay, in your case, your needs are about $4,000 a month, which I want you to think about how you can become more frugal. What we encourage in this show is to be part of what we call the Moneyless Monday. A Moneyless Monday is about not spending a dime on Monday.
Okay.
Right? And that encourages you to think about your spending because right now, a lot of your spend is just virtually. You're not seeing anything. Yeah. Most of your spend is virtually, right? You don't spend much cash at all.
Yeah, no, not cash, really.
Okay. And so with the Moneyless Monday, you're being conscious of your spend, and that allows you to better visualize and understand your personal finances. In addition to that, I want you to decrease as much as you can, or maybe find a way to decrease your needs expenses. Your rent is a little bit high. Not asking you to move with a roommate, but I don't know if there is any way that you can do things about that, because I need you to push those credit cards debt pretty far and to build an emergency fund. For you, an emergency fund, at least, given your standard of living, is $15,000.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to take you some time, but I want you to really get into increasing your income and be mindful of some of your spend. How does that sound? What are your emotions right now? Run me through your train of thoughts a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I think that just spending less impulsively is a good step. Even like the $30 that I spent at DoorDash at 11 p.m. last night, which was a Monday. Right. But, you know, those little things add up. And like you said, we don't see the cash, so it doesn't always like hit the same way. So decreasing those little spends and increasing my income, I think will help me a lot. It's good to hear that if I did $700 a month, that I'd be able to get like most of that out of the way in 3 years. That's actually way better than I would have imagined. Yeah. So it's exciting.
But you cannot afford DoorDash. You cannot afford Starbucks. You need to know it's true because you have $1,000. Something arises, an accident, and I'm touching wood here. I'm not putting it out there. No. But you're an entrepreneur. You're on your own. The story can very quickly flip on you. Okay? So right now, put as much as you can. I don't know. I mean, some of the recommendations that I do, that I would have for you if I were in your spot, use your car as an asset. And instead of ordering DoorDash, maybe do DoorDash or do Uber. Can be a little bit tricky, but Uber Eats, you know. And maybe if it's $60 a day, $50 a day, 2 hours, you know, just put a target at around $40 a day. $40 a day times 30 days is $1,200. This would decrease the time that it takes to pay your debt by more than twice. Within a year and a half, you're done. And it's a new Anna. You see what I mean? As always, little changes makes the big difference. And in your case, you have a very good income. You have a bright future with the condition that you can remain frugal. There is not much that you can change other than some of the ones that you've spoken. Remain frugal. And overall, I think that you should be back on your way. But you're working of a fine line. And do you have any final words, impressions, or anything that you want to share with us? That maybe this open your eyes, the amount of interest that you're paying here.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to think about the interest, especially on the student loans. So it's pretty shocking, but I don't know. I feel like I have it a lot more under control now. So it's nice to have a plan because I've never had conversations in my life about finances. Like my parents never talked about budgeting. So just to be able to talk it through and be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is how things should work out. These are the percentages that things should be at. It kind of makes it easier to comprehend and be motivated to reach those goals.
I love that. You know, this show is not about creating conflict with personal finances. I want people in this show to feel like they can get a hold of themselves and really build something that's investing in their future self. You know, as always, we like to finish our show with a fun fact. Did you know that Albert Einstein said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world? Compound interest refers to the amount of interest that you earn per year based on a standard investment. As we mentioned, S&P 500 for you, maybe in a couple years. But compound interest, again, small changes, good investments, and you could be back on the track. And I fully have trust on you because of your income potential. And I would love to see you succeed, and we'll be following up with you as well. Okay? Thank you very much for following us on Finance Action today. It was a pleasure having you, Anna, with us. We hope that you've got some learning into this and that if you found yourself in a similar spot, this is going to help you out. As always, please feel free to subscribe and follow along as we discover multiple other stories. À bientôt. Thank you.